Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of The Refined Lad. Today I will be discussing the hyper-masculine man in today's society. Now, for the educational purposes of this video, when I say hyper-masculine, I'm defining it as the man in our Western culture that is considered to be machismo or macho. Essentially, these men are so overly aggressive, but the overly aggressiveness and the need to always be right and the need to always be doing something dangerous and the need to always be is really stemming from a source of validation that they need, because deep down a lot of these men are completely insecure and they have no idea who they actually are, nor their identity or roles in life. A lot of these men don't even have a mission, a purpose, or a destination for which they are pursuing. So part of their identity, and I talked to you guys about this before, is repressing those emotions that we've talked about. Emotions are not a bad thing. It's okay to have emotions. What's not okay is to display those emotions all the time, because that's not how a man should be. A man should be the rock. A man should be immovable. Now, revisiting past videos, we've talked about how repressing your emotions and anger or sadness or depression is not good, because it bottles up certain things within the cells of the body that can cause maladies or disease or illness later on within our life. We have also talked about the difference between masculine and feminine energy, masculine being leading or giving, penetrating, whereas feminine is receiving, accepting, nurturing. So interestingly enough, you will find the majority of these men act like they have this tough shell, right? They're that saying, they're a tough nut to crack, but it's really just this exterior shell of a very insecure person. An exterior shell, but deep down this is a very insecure person. And this is a tragic thing, because from the research that I have conducted over the years of men who are like this, a lot of them had a father role who was not nurturing, who was not caring, who did not teach them how to be a man. In fact, he taught them the complete opposite. He taught them that being a man was repressing his emotions. He taught them that being a man was using violence to solve every single conflict in life. He taught them that a man should go sleep with as many women as possible because that's what makes him to be a man. And all those things are incorrect. Now, the real danger of this type of a guy is that he shuts himself down to the possibility of embracing any sort of feminine energy. And masculine and feminine energy we all have. If you look at my past videos, I've described this very much in detail. It's good to have a balance. It's like the whole Chinese philosophy of yin and yang. You can't have too much or too less. They have to be balanced, just like the justice system is supposed to be balanced. It has a scale. Lady Liberty is blindfolded holding the scale, and it goes up and down. It's the same concept. Everything in this life is balance. God created this universe on balance. So when these men shut themselves off, they repress their emotions, they shut themselves off to creativity outlets, to be empathetic or compassionate to others. And you might ask me, Ari, why are you talking about this today? Because I was reflecting back on my childhood, in my middle school years, and my high school years. And the recurring pattern was that all these men that I grew up with, especially, I had shared with you guys before that I got harassed or bullied in school, hazed. Without getting too much into it, I basically had concluded that the majority of these bullies that I had met their fathers, right? I got to see behind the scenes what it was like when they were disapproved, right? Especially in sports, I got to see the disappointed father in their son. You'll never amount to anything. You couldn't score. You couldn't get those points. What the hell's the matter with you? This is all not good to a child's self-esteem, especially when they're learning to develop. If they fully want to become a man, they need a father that will lead. And a father that leads will give tough love at times, but they won't be consistently putting down their kid. And that's something that I have a big issue with when I see it. And I think that it needs to be addressed. I think that these men need to learn to stand up to their fathers when they're acting out of line and they're teaching them these inappropriate and incorrect things. Because this is not how you handle conflict. This is not how you handle situation. And the other thing about this is there's an episode of Freaks and Geeks, if you guys have seen that, it is early Seth Rogen and one of the Franco brothers. And it's a really great series, but it follows, the whole clique side of high school. I believe it was produced in the 90s, early 2000s. And there's a point there where one of the nerds states that the highlight of the QB, the football QB's life was in high school. And he's like, and now I'm looking at these kids and we're out of high school. I'm looking at these kids and they're old and fat. They have keg bellies. They've let themselves go. They no longer train. They no longer are disciplined. It's like all the things they made fun of you when you were younger, they now are reaping. Karma is very real. So throughout my life when I encountered these situations and I literally got to see a backdrop of what these kids looked like, God knows what happened behind closed doors with them, I developed an empathy, believe it or not, for the situation. And I didn't allow myself to be bullied, but now I was understanding that it was coming from a place of hurt. It was coming from a place of insecurity. It was coming from a place of not fully, truly understanding their identity as a masculine man. So I'm going to give you guys an example today. These particular men, I believe, grow up to be the bullies in the workplace. They grow up to be in social hierarchies. They use dominance and assertiveness in the wrong manner. They use it to control, to manipulate, to get their way with things. Rather than to create a cohesive environment where everybody is being lifted up and you're actually leading and you're bringing people to success, these men are only out for themselves. And this absolutely needs to be discussed. Frequently, when I first started weightlifting, I got made fun of because I was always the skinny small guy. Now, something interesting about me is I was about 5'6", 5'7", all through high school until my freshman or sophomore year of college. During the summer, I literally shot up like multiple inches overnight. And I was 6 foot at one point. I'm sharing this because when I first started weightlifting, I was so intimidated. I had this anxiety whenever I entered the gym that I was going to get sized up. I mean, there's even stuff behind the scenes now that I encounter and all other guys encounter in the gym where they're always comparing themselves to somebody else. We do have a big thing with body dysmorphia, so we don't like the way our body looks. At times, I'll be like, I look too skinny, my abs are showing. Other times, I'll be like, I'm glad my abs aren't showing, I enjoy being bulky. It really is a catch-22, and I think it's important that women know also that this isn't just a woman thing. Guys definitely feel this. We just aren't very upfront about it, nor do we want to share it. And so frequently, all throughout the years, I will always run into these type of men, right? I'll be walking in the gym, and this dude always has to lock eyes with me, right? He's just walking around the corner, and he's like this. And he's looking at me in the eyes. And he's like, which one of us is going to look away subconsciously? And I'm like in my head, and I'm like, it brings a part of me that challenges me. And it's like, I learned from somebody who was in prison, like they play games like this. It's a game to see who's more dominant and submissive, right? But I'm living in the real world. We're not in prison. We're not in caveman days, okay? So here's two things that go through my mind when you're staring at me like that. So there's this scene in Step Brothers that whenever I encounter these guys, this is literally the first thought that goes through my mind. Probably top 10 movies as far as comedy goes. Brennan, Will Ferrell's brother, says distinctly to his mother while they're on the couch and they're arguing. He goes, "Mom, I honestly thought I was going to be roped for a second."
He had the craziest look in his eyes, and at one point he said, "Let's get it on."
Right? He wants to fight, and he's going to get his ass kicked. Or, this man wants me, right? This man wants me. So this is the trick that I'm going to give you guys when they call this AMOGing in the PUA community. I'm not super familiar with pickup artists, that kind of stuff, but I do know that this is discussed. AMOG simply stands for alpha male of the group. These guys are super insecure, they get jealous, they get very territorial, and they don't really know how to handle social communication as far as I'm concerned from the experiences that I've been in. So your one tip today, how to disarm these insecure men that act all macho and try to get in your face, especially at the gym. The next time they try to stare you down, you have two options. Number one's not really an option. You guys have to understand this. Whatever you do, if you guys are making eye contact at the gym, do not look down. Why do I say this? Because body language wise, looking down when somebody is looking at you is a sign of submission. It's one of the many choosing signals a man looks for when a woman is subconsciously interested and wants to be approached. So never look down. B, what I'm going to recommend, this is how I handle it. Okay, we can sit there staring all day, bro. And if you stare at me like that all day, at some point I'm going to make you the most uncomfortable that I possibly can. And we're going to find out who's homophobic. Because come a little closer, bro, and I will give you a smooch. I want you next time it comes up, you're walking, right? I want you to smile at him and start up a conversation. Even if it's like, hey, I haven't seen you around here. What's your name? Give him a handshake. A lot of these guys, believe it or not, are only territorial in that sense in the gym because they have a lot of anxiety. Because they also are feeling a certain way. So you completely disarm them when you don't engage in their games and their activities. My mother used to say, after watching Mary Poppins, she talks about killing people with kindness. I genuinely want you to kill people with kindness. The next time somebody tries to slip up on you and tries to be more masculine, more dominant, I want you to be assertive. I want you to strike up a conversation with them, smile at them, ask them how their day is, ask them what set they're working on, ask them what their routine is. I don't really care what it is. The point is to strike up a conversation. Now, usually they will reciprocate. If they don't reciprocate, move on. I'm not going to entertain games, okay? You can play Who Dropped the Soap any other environment, but you're not going to do it here. I'm not engaging. These men, eventually, they have these women, right? They might get these really beautiful women at first. They might have them for a few weeks, few months. But when women start seeing that kind of behavior, that kind of possessive, dominant behavior, if they are secure within themselves, the women are secure within themselves, they're really going to question why he's acting the way he's acting, because a lot of these guys have short fuses as well. I know a few that have severe anger problems that really need to see a therapist, that are in relationships. And eventually this could also become verbally abusive for her. It could become physically abusive for her. There's no reason to use any sort of violence or aggression, and you're taught this in self-defense class unless all other options have been exhausted. You're not to engage. This is the beauty of being non-reactive. You're going to try to get under my skin, and I'm going to sit there and watch you make a freaking fool of yourself. You're only going to look like an idiot, especially in front of your hot girlfriend or wife. I don't really care who it is, because the game never stops. And eventually, she's going to lose respect for you. Her attraction is going to slowly decline. So continue to do the steps that you do while some of us sit back here and watch. For those of you who actually want to learn, for those of you who actually want to be successful in work with women, you'll take this tactic, you will take this tip, and I want you to utilize it. In fact, some of you, if you want to leave a comment, I encourage you to leave a comment. I want you to try this in the gym the next time. Maybe there's that guy that's just always trying to size you up. Strike up a conversation with him. Strike up a conversation with him, see where it goes. But don't ever back down. Don't ever act submissive. Don't ever act like kind of shy. I literally had a guy the other day, and I'm going to end with this. I literally had a guy the other day directly walk in front of me just so I would move out of his way. I had the right of way, right? I'm turning around the corner, I had the right of way. He's not moving. He thinks he's some tough guy. Made an absolute buffoon of himself. Okay? I know his girlfriend said hi to her. Dude was around her the entire time. He would go back to the machine, and then he'd just be staring at me in the mirror, and then he'd go back to the machine, and it's like, you cannot be dating beautiful women and then be upset when another guy is looking at him, okay? If I had $1 for every time that I had exes or women that I've dated in the past looked at, I would be rich. There's always going to be somebody checking them out. Are you going to be the guy that's going to be like, oh, I got to fight him now? I don't have time for that. And the other thing that you have to consider is assault and battery really worth, is spending a few nights in jail or catching a charge really worth just trying to look chivalrous in front of a woman who might not even remember who you are the next week? There's your food for thought. Stay frosty.